Today we are going to draw an eye, and the first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the basic contour or the outline of the eye, and I'm starting with the left eye. And so first of all, I'm lightly starting, and I will end up getting darker as I go along. So I'm just starting with the basic contour, and now what I'm going to do is draw the whites of the eyes to give myself the overall shape of the eye. It's really important that you look for shapes when you're drawing anything. Don't really focus on, I'm drawing an eye or I'm drawing a face. You want to just look for the basic shapes because they will make your drawing a lot more accurate. And as I'm drawing, I'm going to be shading in a little bit. There are some nice, very subtle values in the eye. And now I'm using the other side of the eye, the whites of the eye, to draw the end of the left-hand eye. Next, I'm going to start doing the pupil of the eye, and it is a perfect circle. The larger your pupil, the friendlier, nicer the eye looks. The smaller the pupil, the more seedy or negative of a connotation you might have of a person, depending on the pupil of their eye. It's very strange. To shade the iris, you just do what I call a starburst, where you start from the pupil and you kind of work your way around. I start lightly and then I darken the edges of the iris. I'm just shading a little bit in the whites of the eye to give it a value, and I messed up, so I'm going to just take my eraser. This is a kneaded eraser, and I'm just going to kind of get away some of those extra stray lines that I have and adding a little bit more value to the whites of my eye. Darkening the bottom lash line. You don't want it to be a line. You really don't want any lines in your eye. You want it to be more value changes. And I'm just darkening the iris a little bit more, because as it disperses out, it gets a little bit darker. And just using my kneaded eraser to, lighten areas up or get rid of any stray areas, stray marks. Darkening the lash line on top, and just adding the eyelid. Once again, I'm looking for shapes, and I'm looking to see the distance between, the lid and the eye. And I'm not really drawing a line, I'm actually using the side of my pencil to give it more of a value than a line. Working on the cornea right now, making sure that it is defined. And then I'm just shading a little bit more as I go, because the whites of the eye really are not just plain white, there is some value to it. Now I'm working back under the eye into the lash line, and there's a nice subtle value there. I'm going to just pencil it in very lightly, and then I'm going to smudge it with my finger. And that gives it a really nice kind of subtle blending. And now I'm going to smudge with my tortillion the crease for the eyelid. And tortillions are great for getting into hard to reach areas where you really couldn't use your finger. Basically, they're just rolled up paper. And I'm going to smudge inside the whites of the eye so it's not super white. Darkening the lash line, darkening the iris a little bit more. Remember, these aren't lines, these are values that I'm making. It's really important that you leave a little bit of white in the eye, like the highlight that I have. Here I'm doing the eyelashes, and basically it's kind of a flick of the wrist. You want to start from the outside and work your way in. There are more eyelashes outside than there are going towards the cornea of the eye. And you really want them to be subtle. You don't want them to be too out of control, or else it'll look like, spider legs. There are some lashes on the bottom of the eye, and I'm just going to lightly put them in. And I'm working on the cornea a little bit, making sure it's defined. And working on that lid a little bit more. You don't want to make the eyelashes too crazy, but you do want to make sure they are visible. I'm just going to go back in and fix a little bit more. Now I'm going to start with the eyebrow, and you really want to figure out the shape of the eyebrow. Everybody's eyebrows are different shapes, and to draw the hairs of the eyebrow, you're basically just going to use your pencil to almost comb the hair. You're going to go in the direction, and you want to check the space in between the eyebrow and the eye. Make sure you have a correct space. Once again, I'm just looking for shapes. And so basically I'm just drawing the different hairs that make up the eyebrow and making sure the shape is correct. Now to do my second eye, I'm going to make sure that it's at the right angle, because this woman's face is at an angle. And also, to figure out the distance between two eyes, you just measure the first eye that you drew. Okay, see how I'm measuring it? And the eye should be the exact same size for the most part. You just want to measure. The eye can be used for measurements for everything in the face. I usually start with the eyes first because you can measure to figure out the distance of the nose and the mouth when you do this eye. Alright, so now I'm basically just doing the contour of the second eye, and I'm going to be doing it the exact same way as I did the first eye with the shading.